Well, hello folks, we are live. So we're gonna jump right into it. This is the 13th episode in our Torment series. So let's recap a little bit and talk about where we're at in the game. So, last we left off, we were exploring Caravanserai. And we're trying to find a way to meet the Memavira. So the Memavira is a woman, apparently, in this case. And she rules or is in charge down at the Bloom, which is that large, fleshy mass that we can see far off in the distance when we are in Caravanserai. And we walked around, we talked to the Silver Orphans, and they were very interested in the machine intelligences. And we spoke to some pilots and some other people in the area, and we met a pilot looking for someone who stole his airship, and we've been keeping our eye out for that thief. And, excuse me, but we did not find a way to book a meeting with the Memavira. So I'm thinking that we head to the Order of Truth and maybe talk with them, because she was spying on them. She had an informant, and we had told them about the informant, Rhin, and they decided to keep him on because they want to control the information that she's getting out of the Order of Truth. Now, in exploring Caravanserai, we went down to Cliff's Edge, and we poked around some of the old, essentially abandoned houses down there, and in doing so, we came across a stowaway, a young girl by the name of Rhin. And Rhin was fleeing from some men who were looking to take her to us, to a slave owner, essentially, her owner. Now, it sounded like she was a runaway from, it seemed like an upper-class family. And, but she ran away, and then, you know, she got caught up in the slave trade. At least that's what I think happened. I don't think she was always a slave. She has a head injury, so her memory...
Time better spent pantsless and drinking.
Thanks, Tybeer. So... She's a runaway ultimately, and we scared off those men, and we told her to come with us. We didn't want to just send her off with some money. I didn't feel that she would be very safe in that circumstance, because it seems that there is a reward for her return to her owner. And so we told her to stay with us, and that while she's with us, we can teach her a little bit about surviving. My first goal was to see if there was a place where we could take her. I wasn't sure if it would be appropriate if she was with us, because we live a pretty dangerous life and fight some pretty dangerous monsters. So we went and we talked to Paja and Kellanor, who are looking to adopt children and have had some struggles with that, and they have Jerem at this point. But we weren't able to find anything after a little bit of looking. So at this point, you know, she has become a part of our party. She does have, you know, mechanically speaking, in terms of game mechanics, she does have an icon down here, stats, and I believe she has abilities as well. So, you know, she's not much for a fight, but she can certainly, it looks like, do some stuff. And I think that she'll be, you know, we're going to hold true to our word, and we're going to teach her how to survive. And I'm a little curious about how that's going to pan out, until ultimately we either find a place where she's safe, or she gets to a point where she's able to keep herself safe, no matter what. So, or close to no matter what. It's never no matter what. So I'm looking at her character sheet right now, and let's look a little bit at where she's at. Obviously not like the other characters, the adults in the party, right? And in our first meeting with her, it said that she was probably about 10 or 11. So she's young, but she's not a super young child. She's preteen, so she has some ability to take care of herself and isn't a small child. So, first of all, she does have, intellect and speed pools that are totally decent. So 5 each. And I mean, a lot of the other characters, that's where they sit. That's where, Tybur has only 6 speed and 6 intellect, right? And 5 might. So these are actually very good stat pools for her. Her might is very low, being a child. So she only has a might of 1. And she does have intellect edge, which is really great. So she will be useful to have around in some of these challenges. She has no ability to fight with weapons, so weapons are not anything that she's not going to engage in a fight with a weapon. She doesn't have endurance, so that's a health issue. So her health is quite low. She only has 13 hit points as opposed to the 29, 28, and 20 that the other characters have. So that's part of that is the endurance. No melee weapons, no ranged weapons, no medium weapons, no heavy weapons. So she basically can't use weapons. I don't know if there's any weapons that fall out of these categories, but it sounds like this is basically no weapons available to her at all. She has no combat skills, no explicit combat skills. That doesn't actually mean that she won't be useful in combat, although she will probably do a lot of hiding. And she does have an ability, which is God of Hiding. So she gains a 30% on stealth tests. So she is good at hiding. And she does have some skills. She has the healing skill. So she gets a +5 bonus per level healed when any healing ability or item is used. So that's great. I think what we're going to do is we are going to give her some of our healing items. And if we get in a scrap, she's definitely going to be in a situation where she's typically going to want to stay away, but she can hide very well, and she can definitely go around and administer healing to other party members when the situation warrants. She's perceptive, so she has a skill in perception. She has quick fingers, so like Tybur, she can, she's nimble with her fingers, and that has come into play several times. And she's as skilled as he is in terms of quick fingers, which is great. And she's a runner, which is another good thing when it comes to fights. So she has a bonus to movement distance on each crisis turn. So she is able to move fast, which means far, in turn-based combat. She's good at hiding, and she's good at healing. She's also good at seeing things and using her quick fingers. She has pretty high evasion and decent willpower, so 35% evasion and 20% willpower. These are pretty good resistances. I mean, my character, a main character, has 20% willpower and 20% evasion, so she is higher. And her resistance is 4 and her armor is 1, which is actually higher than I have. My main character, the last cast off. So she has some pretty good defensive abilities. So I'm not too scared if she's in a fight. She might take a hit or two every now and then, but we found out that as long as someone makes it out, everybody makes it out. So that will be good in this respect, because she does have very few hit points. So we don't have any new quests. This is the Airship Thief, the One True Love, and Borrowed and Lost for the book. So these are just kind of quests where we're going to be keeping an eye out and see if we come across what these folks were looking for. So this is, the blonde Airship Thief that glows. The One True Love, he was in Caravanserai. What's his name? Omadon. Looking for his lost love. Sounds like there's some complications there. And then the book that Felinda here in Circus Minor accused us of stealing. And of course, there's the main quest. I've been staying away from talking to the cult quite yet. I've really been waiting. It's obvious that my path is leading me to talk to them, and I've been kind of putting it off at this point. I'm not sure. I might break into that this episode, but we're gonna go and see if maybe we can get an audience with the Memavira and see where that goes. So first of all, Rhin, I can talk to her.
What's going on?
So I'm not sure, I'm not sure if she's going to say anything different if I talk to her now, but let's just see how she's holding up, because, we walked around with her just a little bit, And let's see what she has to say before we set off. So she says, I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come along and saved me. I don't think I'd be alive anymore. I think about that a lot. I don't know how to thank you for it. It's something too big to thank someone for. She watches you patiently. So, I think that we'll continue on. Now, she can't use any weapons, but I figure she can probably use a shield. So let's go see if we can't pick up a shield for her. So, number 2, show me what you have for sale. So we do have some healing potions. I'm going to give her the healing potions, at least I'll give her the healing potions that we have, because it's going to mean that I don't have to use those actions in combat. She can. And so it opens me up for more actions. Rather than healing myself, she can heal, or, you know, other characters. She can heal them. So I'm going to buy a shield and hope that she can use it. So it goes into my backpack. Let's check it out. It doesn't say she can't. So double click it. There we go. She sure can. Excellent. So that now her evasion is up to 45%. That's great. Oh, and she does have this bonded item, which is a polished rock. Doesn't appear. It just says, in every way that matters, this is a rock with a hole in it. Yet Rhin talks to it frequently. It does say Rhin, lost child who shapes gods. So Rhin may be lost, but she's not helpless. She's just alone. Rhin is just a child, nothing special about her. Unless you count her damaged head, her odd turns of phrase, and her tendency to talk to a rock that lives in her pocket. Her focus is shapes gods. Rhin insists that the stones she carries with her are gods. She says that they help her, though it's hard to know for sure. There may be some truth to that, and I'm sure we'll find out. So, she does have armor. Her Rhin's shirt gives her 1 armor and 4 resistance, and her cloak gives her the evasion and willpower. She also can carry ciphers. So she has a cipher limit of 3. So that's great. So I'm going to give her... Let's give her 1... No, oh, man, it's so hard to know what the right thing to do is here. I feel like I should give her most of these, because I don't think her healing ability will help her with these other items, but I'm pretty sure it will help her with the healing potion, the spray flesh. So, we'll give her those. I'm going to hold... it's so hard to know if I should give it to her or not, both potions, but I'm sure we'll come across more, and we'll see about maybe giving them to her later. Yes. So let's go ahead, and I didn't notice this guy here before, the genocide. Ooh. Let's interact with this, see what it is. This machine towers above you like a dagger driven into the ground by a giant. It seems much older than the surrounding buildings. Your hands itch to touch the array of dark panels scattered around the machine, as though they have touched them before. So, it seems like we might have some familiarity with this machine, like we often do. So let's examine the device. A tangle of mismatched parts make up this once functional generator. Once again, you notice the Cercinet symbol etched into the side like a maker's mark. I looked up that word, Cercinet, and I think it's something that's like shaped like a circle that like the edges kind of come out like this. I think something like that, but it was a while ago I looked up the word. So Cercinet. That's a fun word. Okay. Let's examine it again, see if it gives us anything. Once again, you notice the Cercinet symbol etched into the side like a maker's mark. Okay. So I think the same symbol as the other device that's up in Government Square, it sounds like. What does it say? Once again, you notice the Cercinet. Okay, so yeah, it sounds like the same symbol. So we examined it again. A tangle of mismatched parts make up this once functional generator. Once again, you know, okay, it's the same thing. Okay, so we'll leave the generator alone. I wonder if this guy, let's talk to him. He is standing right by it. So this person's name in the text box is the genocide. So let's see. This burly, armor-clad figure stands almost motionless as you approach. He regards you silently through his singular eye. The studs on his arms and the blades on his shoulders are stained and pitted with age. When he speaks, his voice is muffled and artificial, a hollow grumble that emanates from the entirety of the helmet. I am the genocide. If you ask, I must answer. Pass on, then, and exchange no words. Okay. His surface thoughts are like a crystal pool, alternately transparent or else perfectly reflecting his words. His mind reveals nothing hidden except for a low-level hatred of everything around him. This latter is more a feeling you get than an actual thought you hear. So he said, I am the genocide. If you ask, I must answer. Pass on, then, and exchange no words. So, if you ask, I must answer, but he's telling me to pass on, then, and exchange no words. You said you had to answer if I asked why. I have no more questions. Farewell. I mean, he told me not to exchange words, and no matter what, I have to exchange words. There's no option to just walk away. So, I guess if I'm going to exchange words, I might as well ask. I don't know which one I should do. What are you? And you said you had to answer if I asked why. Sure. Let's go with the more specific or detailed question responding to what he said. From within the helmet, you hear a grinding noise, the sound of teeth gnashing, amplified. Then the voice again, bleak. We sat at the river's edge, and we wept for the time that was. We saw nothing more to conquer, and yet our fear still drove us. We had conquered the land, purged its impurities, made it ours. Still we wanted more. When we heard that humans had come to carve a home, we rejoiced to have a new foe, a new test of our truth. We rode against them. We drove them to the forge of the night sky, to the valley of Mra Jolius, to the dangers of the Black Riage. But those who built atop these ruins, they thwarted us. Time and again. And so we brought our constructs and our deadliest warriors to the bay outside the city. We laid a mighty siege. We entered the human settlement. We fought past barricades and traps. Some of our constructs are still here, silent and dead. But when we thought we had achieved our greatest victory, he lowers his head. A powerful nano saved them. With his magics, he called upon the strength of the ancients and captured us. I thought my life was at an end, but he imprisoned me in slow time, trapped me in my body, used machines to paralyze my will. I still remember our glories, and I still see the faded future in front of me, and I am powerless to act. The memories of our triumphs always at the forefront of my mind, and I must answer the mocking questions of these people, or suffer. Okay, so it sounds like this is a punishment that was dealt upon the genocide. So it doesn't sound like he's human. Sounds like this nano that saved them, which I hope we will get to learn more about, and maybe we already have, and I'm just not connecting the dots. So Nano saved them and basically put him in a stasis where he has to answer questions. And you know what? I like it when people answer questions, so I will ask his questions. I don't know if I mean, it sounds like, you know, they were pretty bad. You know, he's called the genocide, so it sounds like he's called the genocide because they were committing genocide against humans. And if you know, and this is kind of his punishment for that. So let's see, what are you? He obviously doesn't want to talk, but has no choice. So, I mean, okay, I'm going to make use of it. So he says, so we asked him, what are you? He says, I am a blade that cannot cut, a weapon that cannot strike, a living monument to failure. He shifts his weight. You hear the frown in his voice. I was Ogesti Telkotu, the firm hand of tradition. They called me one of the Black Three. Enemies did not understand us. They took my name to mean death in a dozen extinct tongues, called me Orphan Maker, Hope Smasher, Death's Child. My armies blackened the earth and the skies. My Dragolis scoured the land. Domination was my duty. If they had known, if they had welcomed us, they might have been our thralls. Instead, they became dust. He gestures. All this, it was to have been mine in stewardship for the future of my people. It was promised. But now, his arm falls back to its side. Now I am the genocide. A relict, the last of my kind. So, can you tell me about the Nano who trapped you here, and how did he stop you? Just ask in a cheerful voice. Says, the genocide raises his hands in defeat. He found old knowledge and made it his own. He created defenses that we could not penetrate. Most telling, most effective, the shield generators. He created 3 barriers around the heart of the city, and the last unmoored the city in time. When our constructs touched it, they flashed to stasis. We could not reach the city, but the city could reach us. You feel the ticklings of memory as the genocide speaks of the shields. He continues to talk, oblivious. Let the memory come, push the memory aside, and focus on the genocide's word. Wait, I had other questions. Feel the ticklings of memory as the genocide speaks of the shields. I feel like we have to do a check, or we'll have to do a check, or we could let him talk. I mean, we know that he has to answer the question. We might be able to ask him again if we miss anything. So we're going to let the memory come. It's a patchy memory, coming in still images and moments. The relentless beat of the war machines as they approach the city, the reavers in the sky on their dirigibles. You remember fighting them on the parapet. You remember fleeing into the safety of the city. You recall making your way to the shield generators, cutting off the Tabit's supply lines. And then the memory fades. The genocide watches you silently. So you seem very calm for someone who's been in prison for centuries. I mean, you know, what's he supposed to do? I'm not sure if there would be any use. And you know, he probably wants to maintain some dignity, but I'm not entirely sure. So it says here, one of the options I can say. How do they stop you from trying to escape? The Nano who defeated you was the changing god. He and his children still live. So let's see. It's a I wasn't sure if that was the case, if we were the Nano, but it says it's a patchy memory coming in still images and moments. The relentless speed of the war machines as they approach the city. The reavers on the light in their dirigibles. Yeah. You remember fighting them on the parapet. Remember fleeing into the safety of the city. You recall making your way to the shield generators, cutting off the Tabit's supply lines, and then the memory fades. So I'm not sure if we are in fact the Nano that he's talking about, or we're the Nano, or not us, I guess, the changing god, and you know, our previous body owner, the changing god. If we are indeed the Nano that saved the city, but you mentioned the Tabit. Who or what were they? Let's see what he says about this. And I kind of figured, just reading it in my head here. My people, his voice is forlorn. Great warriors, we owned this land. We served the Underspine, and it served us. We sought truth in victory. We ascended to Epiphany. We were pure, incorruptible, indivisible even in disunity. We found strength in one another, and it proved with bloody blades. And proved it with bloody blades. But we fell, and the Underspine fell. And so, too late, we learned a new truth. But I carry the old ways as a seed within my heart. So what can you tell me about the Underspine? I don't know what that is. So it seems like they're kind of like a war, honor, tribe sort of people. But we don't really know that much about them. So I asked him, can you tell me more about the Underspine? Our slave, our god, our prize. It kept us holy, kept us pure and unchanging, anchored to a fixed point. The world turned around us, but we remained constant. When the world brought inconstancy, we fed it blood. I wonder if he's talking about the bloom. Our slave, our god, our prize, kept us holy, kept us pure and unchanging, anchored to a fixed point. The world turned around us, but we remained constant. When the world brought inconsistency, we fed it blood. He pauses. The underspine was our soul, our confessor. We knew clean, hard rapture from it. We knew our path. It gave us the words of the ancient tablet, and our path was rigid and unbending. Absolute. So what was the underspine? He considers. You would not understand. It was a machine. It was a stone. It was a cavern. It was a city. It was the direct voice of our ancestors. It spoke in our heads and in our ears and in our hearts. We heard its voice in our crutches, in our daily instructions. Our God was true and strong and singular, not fickle, inconsistent, not the fickle, inconsistent things of the modern day. So, what happened to the underspine? You can hear the frown in his voice. Sabotage or failure. One of those under my command told me that it had whispered defeat into his ears as if it had sickened, lost sight of the true path. Given the question, the underspine denied this. My soldier was cast out, and I suffered the barb for his doubt. It was later, years later, that the underspine broke. After our failure. And I have never been sure if the seeds for our defeat were planted in those days. So he kind of speaks, you know, he doesn't speak directly. He speaks in kind of metaphor, it seems like. So he says, so sabotage or failure, we don't know how, if that was the case. And, you know, obviously if it failed, it would be sabotage or failure. Really not many other options, I would say. I guess, you know, sabotage implies that it was internal. Implies, not necessarily. But so one of those under my command told me that it whispered defeat into his ears as if it had sickened, lost sight of the true path. Given the question, the underspine denied it. So my soldier was cast out. So the soldier told them, and soldier was cast out, and the underspine denied it. So the underspine was able to speak, and I suffered the barb for his doubt. So years later, the underspine broke after a failure, and I'd never been sure the seeds of our defeat were planted in those days. So if, you know, one of those under my command, so he said that the, so basically if the one under his command had kind of spread the rumor and it became a self-fulfilling prophecy sort of thing, or if the underspine itself, in fact, did it to undermine himself for some reason that we can't understand. He shuffles his feet. The nano who captured me, who nailed me to time, he used the mind seer to ferret out the underspine's location. I do not know if he ever found it in the world. He raped a genocide from me and mocked me in his sobriquet. I was not to blame. I will stand before the underspine and swear my innocence. So, let's see. If your path was unbending, it's no wonder you broke. Ooh, a red tide raised a small amount. It seemed it was more substantial. Like, it's only a small amount, but it seems like the notification was more noticeable that time. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I do not bend now. I have been driven down, but I do not bend. I live, and those stood against me are dead. Those who stood, and those stood against me are dead. He turns away from you slightly. Do you have more questions, or do you release me? Let's ask something else. You feel the genocide's gaze upon you through the visor, but he is silent. So we'll see what else. If there's anything here I want to talk about with him right now. I don't necessarily want to go through everything right now. I don't necessarily want to tell him that I think it's the changing god. I don't know that it was the changing god. I don't know. And I don't know if I give him information, what that means. If he conveys that information to others or if it matters, I'm not sure. You mentioned the shield generators. Can you tell me about them? I told you their effect. They unmoored the city in time. They severed our supply lines. They left us vulnerable and defeated us. The Underspine's strategy failed us. I began to doubt. He shifts slightly. The generators are unused, abandoned, their purpose forgotten. Though the people of this city still swear by our name, and our terrors are fresh in their nightmares, despite the passage of centuries, they have forgotten the means of their salvation. This one, beside me, no longer functions, but one of the others is buried in the ground not far from here, and has not yet failed. It powers the clock around which those ridiculous fools prance. Okay, so that is very good information, and I am happy to know it, because there is a generator up in the government district, and this is clearly a generator, and there is one under the clock. And it seems that these generators were very important in the defense of the city, and have not been properly maintained. So I think that knowing this, it might behoove us to start asking questions about the generators. So
Of course we can help. Right, Al?
I'm glad. I wonder if it didn't give us any journal entries, did it? No. I did, maybe in the codex there's something so that we can come back to this a little bit. There's slave families, no. Jibra, foreman, locations. If this is Circus Minor, does it mention anything about that? Creatures, factions, and cults. Tablet. Yeah, so let's see what the codex says. So, before humanity emerged on Earth about 1,000 years ago, the Tablet ruled Greater Garavia. They believed that conflict clarified them, and they thought of themselves as the perfect fighting force. Their chained god and enslaved machine intelligence called the Underspine guided them and prophesied their future. They claimed to be the chosen people of New Earth and destroyed any who dared stand against them. That is, until they met the humans at Sagas Cliffs. This defeat led to their ruin, and when a massive detonation destroyed the Underspine, the Tablet were finished. Only the genocide remains, the last remnant of a forgotten people. So that is
It's strange to have so
him.
many of your sisters with you. Doesn't it get loud?
We work well together. Most of us, anyway. We share, we gossip. I am never lonely. And I am in the company of my favorite people.
But what about when you have to go to sleep and one of them won't stop talking?
She learned to stop, darling. We taught her.
Well, that got ominous very fast. Just a little interaction there between Rhin and Kalisteg. So, it's interesting to see those little interactions. I do like them. Well, I'm going to take a quick break. Let's do a quick save. And we will be back shortly, folks. See you soon. And we are back, folks. So, we just spent some time speaking to the genocide. And he is the remainder of the Tabat, which were a race of beings that were in conflict with the humans here in Sagas Cliffs and attempted to wipe them out. They were not successful because there was a mage, essentially, who saved the city of Sagas Cliffs, and we suspect that that may have been the changing god. And we had some memories of the fight, the final fight that defeated them and their god, the Underspine.
Naturally.
So that was a bit of a little bit of a tangent talking to him, just, going off a little bit, but I'm glad that we learned some information about these generators that were vital to the protection of the city during the fight with the Tabat. And we have learned that one of the generators is still functional, and it keeps this clock up and running, and he sees it as a waste. He thinks that, and it probably is, to be honest. These other generators are non-functional currently. Perhaps that can change in the future. I think that they are probably are going to be an important component of the story moving forward. So with that, let's There's some interesting people there. Let's go look at this clock. I want to see if we can learn anything about it. I'm still interested in getting a meeting with the Memavira, but we'll get there when we get there.
Let's go.
So let's see what happens when we interact with this clock. So this is a clock, apparently. So it says, as you approach the clock, there is a pause in the argument the duo next to it are having. The petite woman turns towards you. Her hair is unusual, a light, almost yellow color, and her bright eyes dominate her pretty face. Excuse me, but my colleague and I were having a discussion, and... Her eyes fall upon your tattoo, and her breath catches audibly in her throat. Her partner is an unnaturally tall man, gaunt and sour-faced, his voice sonorous with fingers that twitch and weave through strange contortions. Occasional light sparks in the air as he does. He turns to you and opens his mouth to speak, registers your tattoo, and closes it again. His throat bobs for a moment, and he says, "It is an honor." Callisteg. She sighs. Must we indulge in this religious nonsense? Your opinion of our beliefs is noted. We have discussed our differences with you, and you have made your position quite clear, thank you. He turns back to you, anger etched on his face. He collects himself. If I might impose on your time for a moment, will you tell me about your tattoo? How did you shape it? Did you know why it differs from the others? He's thinking. I'm having trouble placing him. Could it be? I need more time to question him. So these are, oh yes, these are cultists, I believe. So, well, just by approaching and interacting with the clock, we're having our first main interaction with the cultists where I haven't just immediately fleed. So we'll see what they have to say. It sounds like he knows some stuff about, you know, when a cast-off is created. So let's see what we can learn. Having trouble placing him. Could it be any more time to question him? So placing him, I'm not sure what that means, like, you know, the type of cast-off we are or anything related to that. So I don't know much about my tattoo. What does it mean to you? Others, you mean other cast-offs? I would say probably. And what do you mean shape it? Don't tattoos stay the same? So I don't know much about my tattoo. What does it mean to you? You've been touched by the changing god, she whispers, his mind sheltered in you. He shared his dreams, his power with your mind. And when he left your body, he created you, she swallows. The tattoo marks you, all of you, with his symbol. It grows and changes as you mature so that it becomes your symbol instead. There are more of you. They call you cast-offs. She cocks her head, studying you. You are welcome here, revered one. We stand ready to serve as we can. Have you any questions for us? So, do you know anything about the Sorrow? Can you tell me about my tattoo? Can you tell me about my sire? Do you anything know about this device called a resonance chamber? Maybe. I mean, we need to go there eventually. So let's see what they have to say about the changing god. So I asked, what can you tell me about my sire? You mean the most accomplished inventor of our time, the hero of Sagas Cliffs, the man who dodged death itself, the Time Weaver, the man who destroyed the Tabat? Oh, we have so much to say. She catches herself. But perhaps we should wait for another time. Okay, so it seems clear that yes, the changing god was probably the nano that saved Sagas Cliffs from the Tabat. So that's interesting. What can you tell me about this city? So they're probably interested in the city because the changing god was so prominent here in that battle, apparently, according to them. And it sounds like that's the case. We had a memory of that, and it seems that that would be accurate. The city your sire built and defended, the cradle of civilization, the center of the empire of knowledge? His eyebrows rise, his tone is effusive. It is among the great works of humanity in the Ninth World, built on the foundations laid by unknown creators. It has risen to become one of the preeminent cities in Garavia Sound. He pauses. It is somewhat diminished in these latter years, to be sure. Perhaps if the changing god were to return to lead us to glory. Okay, so they revere the changing god. It's interesting. Do you know anything about the Sorrow? Casmine. She shudders and touches herself ritualistically on the forehead and on her lips. A monster of deepest nightmare. I've heard that it wants you dead, every one of the Holy One's creations, all dead. I don't know why, but it hates you. Okay. So, can you tell me anything else about the Sorrow? Mimian. He nods somberly, raising a finger to his forehead. Only that it is remorseless, pitiless, and it wants nothing more than the destruction of you and all those who, like you, were created by your sire. Okay, so the Sorrow doesn't like cast-offs. Do you know anything about a device called a resonance chamber? We'll go for it. Mimian. Rumor and conjecture, nothing more. Idle speculation from those who wish to pretend to knowledge of your sire's motivations, passed along as fact. He leans out to touch you. Have you seen it? Do you know where it is? What it does? Salamary of the Order of Truth told me that you would know about the artificer who helped build it. The resonance chamber is... I don't know if I want to tell them where it is. I don't know anything about a resonance chamber, but I was told you might. I need to know who can repair it. Let's say Salamary tell me that you might know the artificer who helped build it. Sure. I'm not sure how much information... And there's obviously differences here in the amount of information I'm giving to them through the type of question that I ask. So, you know, I can tell them where it is directly, which I don't really want to do. I can say I don't know anything about it. That's not entirely true, but ultimately it kind of is. I don't really know that much about it, but I do know some things about it. But I was told you might. You know, it's interesting that he has this opinion of it, that it's, you know, rumor and conjecture. You know, idle speculation from those who wish to pretend to have knowledge of your sire's motivations, the changing god's motivations. And I'm wondering, because it seems up until now, when we explore the memories that the last cast-off that I have of the changing god, it seems like he was very motivated to build this, and it seems like those motivations and intentions were clear, and we know that those were his motivations and intentions. So this cultist so either we are wrong and we are getting, you know, mixed a kind of false memory of what's going on, or this cultist, you know, he has some opinions about it that are just not accurate. And then I need to know who can repair it. That's probably, it gives them the least amount of information. You know, number one is more specific because we're asking about the artificer who helped build it, and they might be able to give us a more specific answer to that, and I need to know who can repair it. That's more generic, and it doesn't give them as much information, but I think I'm going to go with number one. Salamary at the Order of Truth told me that you would know about the artificer who helped build it. Casmine. She taps her fingers thoughtfully on her lips. I haven't heard about that part of the legend. I thought that it was the changing god who built it himself. Do you know more about the resonance chamber than what we've been taught, Mimian? He smiles slightly and spreads his hands in apology. Not as much as I should like, but we have ways to find answers. His eyes trawl to your face, and it seems as if he's on the verge of understanding something. It is said by those loyal to your sire that the chamber is the solution to the Sorrow, the creature that hunts you all. I'm certain now we haven't met this one yet. That's what he thinks. We don't know how, though, she bows her head slightly. We take this as an article of faith. The resonance chamber will save you. He looks sharply at you now, all distractions gone. I do not recognize you, he says. You do not match any descriptions we have recorded. Casmine. She snaps her fingers as if she is finally figuring out a mystery. Wait. Let me remember your face. She studies you carefully. Oh my, you're new. Are you the changing god? Can it be? She reaches out to touch your sleeve and pulls her hand back quickly. So we can say I am the changing god, or no, I'm not the changing god. I'm not sure what the answer is. I believe we are not, but there's been some hints that we may be. So I don't quite know, but I'm gonna go with what I believe, which is no, I'm not the changing god. Mimian. He nods, satisfied. As I thought, you are a cast-off, one of his children. He touches you with his long-fingered hand as if in consolation. There is no shame in such a thing. Many cast-offs have come to our attention, and some of them have sought to deceive us so that they might seem more important. He smiles softly. If you are as new as we suspect, it is better for you, or us, to know the truth of your existence than to bluster and lie. Kasmin. Crestfallen, she touches your shoulder. Are you sure you're not? She catches herself. No, why would you lie about that? With a noticeable effort, she wrenches herself into optimism, and she chirps. But you're new, aren't you? You're new. Have you decided what you'll do, what you'll be? Your sire's other children have done amazing things, amazing. And no doubt you will as well. Mimian. He lays a hand on her shoulder, and his voice is low, cautionary. Cass. She looks away from you for a moment, swallowing sudden tears, and he says, We have a request for you. He gestures towards the clock behind him. Dark figures circumbobulate these clock faces. Circumbulate. These clock faces. I theorize that your sire's creation of the time, shields that protected the city, established a connection with his future selves. Given this, we believe these figures may be cast-offs, or ghosts of cast-offs perhaps, the living shells of the bodies your creator has worn previously. His fingers shrug eloquently for him. The clock is unmoored in time, you see. We do not have knowledge sufficient to investigate, but you might. You have a connection with those who created the clock. You should be able to align it with the present time and uncover who these figures are. A gentle, rare smile appears. If you cannot, at least you will increase our store of knowledge. Kasmin. She smiles bravely, looking between Mimian and you, and says, and then we can have and then we can answer the questions you must have. Right, Mim? Do you have any idea how to fix the clock? I'll do it. I won't do it. I have other questions. All right, well, do you have any idea how to fix the clock? Mimian. We have tried. We have appealed to the order of truth. I have spoken with eminent seekers of knowledge. We have sent for wisdom from as far as the steadfast. A great achievement, you see. You must agree. None have given us an answer. We believe your sire created the device or had a hand in it. Perhaps, I guess. Dismay dances across his fingers. His hungry-eyed compatriot steps in. Perhaps you can find an answer where others have failed, and then we can help you. She turns away. You will have our boundless gratitude, revered one.
Making a note.
Okay, so
All right.
if I interact with it, it says this complex machine towers over you. Its purpose is unclear, but the 3 circular faces set into the ground remind you of clocks. Something is wrong with the machine, however. It's partially transparent, shimmering in the air when you look directly at it. The clock faces seem to show several different times at once. Humanoid silhouettes ripple beneath the central clock face. One places his hand against the face as though it were a glass wall. They seem to be watching you. Well, let's examine the machine. The towering mechanism wavers in the air. Similar to Callistag, it appears to be in several states at once, though all of the machine's states are in the exact same location. You can't touch it either. Your hand passes right through the structure. Okay. As you pull your hand away, a memory strikes you as powerfully as if someone took a club to your chest. You are working at the clock. It is no longer transparent, but perfectly solid. There is a noise behind you, so they've come. 3 traitors. They think to surprise you, but through the powers of the clock you have foreseen this moment. There is the faintest sound of metal sliding against leather. You slap a hand on the central clock face, activating the clock's arcane powers. You're not sure what it will do to them, but it's better than what they'll do to you. There's a flash. Arcs of energy stretch out from the clock over your shoulders to your would-be attackers. You don't see what happens to them, but they quickly disappear along with their screams. As the last shreds of the memory fade, a swirl of energy passes through your body. Cold barbs prick every muscle. Suddenly, tidal forces arc from the clock to 3 ancient devices in the cultist encampment. The clock recognized something inside you, or maybe vice versa. Either way, you have inadvertently activated the nearby devices.
Making a note.
Okay. Bit exciting. A little more full than I remembered. Okay. Well, would you look at that? That's gonna cause a buzz in the cultist camp. So, man, things just happen and they derail all of your plans. Hey, I'm glad Rhin is here to see this. Now, this has got to be some pretty interesting stuff for an 11-year-old. Okay, so these devices activated, and now it appears, I don't know if we could have interacted with them before, but, okay, wait, it said 3, right? It said 3. Activated the 3 devices, didn't it? Okay. Anyway, maybe I'm wrong. Excuse me. Maybe it's on the map. Nope, they're not on the map. So if there is 3, I have to find it. I thought it was 3. Anyway, okay, so let's click on the clock again, see what happens. This complex machine shimmers in the air when you look directly at it. The clock faces seem to show several different times at once. Shadowy silhouettes watch you from beneath the central clock face. So let's examine it again. The machine wobbles in the air, seeming to be in several states at once. It makes you a little sick to look at it. Okay. Examine it again, see if we get any other info. Nope, nothing new. Let's reach for the silhouetted figures. Your hand passes straight through the clock face, the figures, and the entire structure. It's as if the entire machine wasn't even there. Let's reach out for them again. Your hand passes through them as before. You'll have to find some other way to get at them. Okay, well, we'll step away. So there's obviously more we can do with it. I'm going to leave that for now.
Ready.
We will come back to this clock later, because I do... Let's quick save. I do want to go up. I'm still interested in what... in the Memovira. So... missing something. You can press tab to view all interactive characters and objects in the area. Yes. If you don't know, tab is basically one of your most useful buttons in the game. It highlights everything you can click on, touch, examine, interact with, etc. It gives you names, all that kind of stuff. So you can pan with the keyboard, the WASD, W-A-S-D. Or, you know, side-scrolling is fine too. So let's go to the Order of Truth. Just see if they, you know, because we know that the Memovira was interested in the Order of Truth, so maybe they can give us some way to speak with the Memovira. We won't spend too much time,
Naturally.
but we'll explore it a little bit. So let's speak with Min. See if he has anything to say about that. Min of Tan Liang. Rubbing his temples with grease-stained fingers, the tall priest nods at you. Do you have more time to talk about the mechanical Numenera? So that's, I believe, the foreman. So the responsible answer is no. The responsible answer is no, he says, but no one needs me to sign anything right now, so yes. Yes, I do. Should I ask about who should I ask about the res? Okay, so it doesn't sound like... Let's talk about something else. I have more questions about the Order of Truth. Ask whatever you want, he says. So, can you tell me about the members? No. Can you remind me? No. I don't see anything about the Memovira. Let's see if Salamari has anything. Yes, she says, looking at you out of the corner of her eye. What is it? Tell me, nope, nothing new from her.
Naturally.
Let's see if Lan Yuring has anything to say about the Memavira. Lan looks at you, then jerks his gaze away as if the sight of you pains him. Thank you for convincing Min to let me stay. I don't know where else I would go. I have some more questions about the Memavira. Oh, I think I asked these questions. Yeah, I have some more questions. Yeah, I did already these. Let's see if there's anything. You met her in person. Why do you think her people came after you? Let's see. His eyes go wide. Please keep your voice down, he hisses. Have you met her in person? Only the first time, he says, closing his eyes. I hope it's the last. You hear things about life in the bloom, how ruthless the people are living there are. He swallows. She's worse than anything you can imagine. So, tell me why you think she's ruthless. It's not what I think. It's not a theory. I've seen her at work. Blue tide raised. Covers his eyes like a child. When I met her, there was a man chained to a table between us. One of her torturers, I suppose, was working on him, peeling his skin away, strip by strip. He screamed and screamed, but he rubs his eyes. She waited for the silence between the screams. She never raised her voice, and she never explained what the man had done to disappoint her. I think she had just decided to combine two appointments, mine and his. Okay. Creepy. So, why do you think her people came after you? It's not just me, he says. I'm not special. I'm nothing special. She wants control over everyone. He grits his teeth. I was just an easier target. Okay. Let's talk about something else. I have some more questions about the Memavira. Let's see. No, let's. I don't think there's. Let's ask him about his area of study. Just see what he says. What? He says, blinking and straightening. You want to know what I'm working on? Are you sure? Yeah, absolutely. I'm designing an intelligence, he says, but not the normal kind. Not, just metal or with a dependent intelligence rigging system. No, it's larger than that. Stronger. Lan himself seems to be getting stronger, rising as he speaks. You hadn't noticed before, but he is actually taller than you. The idea is this: an intelligence that can find, test, identify, and fully understand Numenera. We can unlock the secrets of lost civilizations. His eyes are gleaming now, and he raises a trembling fist. Do you understand? If we do this, we can break the chains binding us to our past and turn into the reins with which to steer the future. I can't help noticing that your plan is long on rhetoric and short on specifics. That seems useful. No one here would get hurt testing Numenera on themselves anymore, and wouldn't having a machine test the Numenera take all the fun out of playing with them. I mean, true, I do like playing with them. But, you know, it's not a good thing that people get hurt, so let's say that. It seems useful that no one would get hurt testing Numenera. Oh, he says, dropping his righteous fist. Clearly, this benefit has never occurred to him. Of course. The fervent gleam slowly fades from his eyes. It's only a theory, for now. I don't have the funding. Not yet. But I've been studying machines with Min when he can spare the time, and he likes my ideas even if he thinks they're impossible. He looks away. I think he's disappointed I'm not a real Aeon priest yet. He thinks. I should have the money by now. I was told they'd keep paying me even after the first time. Okay, so it sounds like Min is being too kind to you. Don't you want to be one? And impossible seems harsh. It seems like Min, okay, let's say, you know, obviously he wants to be a priest, so don't you want to be one? Oh yes, he breathes. That would change everything. Only full Aeon priests have access to the Order's funds. I can use them to build a full prototype. Min might protest, but he'll understand once I get the design right. He licks his lips. They're dry, almost leathery. I just need to get it right. That's all. So what do you need to do to become an Aeon priest? You have to make a major discovery, he says miserably. But it doesn't matter now. Min will never let me join now that he knows I was spying on the Order. Okay, well, we're gonna leave it. He doesn't have a way to get us down to the Memavira, and so I'm going to leave the Order of Truth for now. So, we have learned a little bit about the past conflicts in the city and these generators. So here's the generator up here. And this one still seems to have some power going on. I mean, we investigated it before, and I'm just trying to, it's been a little while since I was up here and looked at it more closely. And compared to the one down in Circus Minor, it's quite a bit more active than that one. So I'm sure that when, these are going to come into play later
A
on.
world where we might take you, child. No, don't cry. I am trying to make you strong.
I'm not crying. This is disbelief.
It's a shame to hear such venom from one so young, dear.
But it's okay for old people like you.
Well, interesting interaction. Not sure what spurned that. But these generators, so I'm sure that they will come into play later. But with that, we haven't managed to gain a meeting with the Memavira, but we will keep trying it, and it may come up organically as well. I'm going to probably go and speak to the cult again soon, but we will leave it there for now. And have a good night. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. I do try to put out content regularly, a few times a week, and so it really helps if you like and subscribe the videos that I am making. It shows that people are interested. So with that, we will leave it, and new videos coming out soon.